More Aussie investments in agriculture and non-resource sector call. Independent task force team takes over SABL enquiry. And Buka's Maurice Opeti sings his way to winning Vocal Fusion 2.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and welcome to another working week. The Australia PNG Business Forum has begun with Papua New Guinea setting the tone for discussions over the next 48 hours as an aggressive trade partner. Speaking before the forum, Commerce and Trade Minister Richard Maru said PNG would be seeking more Australian investment in agriculture and other non-resource sectors. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill conveyed a similar message, highlighting Australia and PNG's long relationship whilst seeking a reprieve of Australia's visa restrictions.
The Australia-Papua New Guinea Business Forum comes on the back of the visit by Indonesia's President Joko Widodo. As Papua New Guinea reaches out to its nearest neighbour to seek out new opportunities, it's also telling its closest ally and supporter that the existing relationships need to be further improved.
We are shifting our focus to the sectors which will create the most employment, that are going to sustain our economy going forward, that's going to unleash our potential as a country. And my message is clear.
Over the next 24 hours, Papua New Guinea will be presenting its views from a position of strength. A stronger economy and an attractive investment environment mean Australia, despite being one of its biggest aid donors and investors, will have investment competition from growing economies in Asia.
Papua New Guinea is now a far more attractive investment destination. The world knows about us. They are coming, and if they do not want to come in and support us, meet our national aspirations by growing a more robust and more sustainable economy, we will bring investors from other countries. And I'm talking Europe, I'm talking Israel, I'm talking other countries.
It's that tone that has also come from Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. He asked why Australia was still not granting Papua New Guineans visas on arrival, and then went on to add that Indonesia had already agreed to an arrangement that allowed Papua New Guineans to gain visas on arrival.
Fortunately for Papua New Guinea, I can announce today that Indonesia has agreed to provide visa on arrival to Papua New Guineans. This arrangement will be in place within 3 months.
I must say, Prime Minister, we are pleased that we've been able to introduce multi-year visas, especially for business and distinguish people within PNG, and multi-entry visas, of course, associated with that. We have the problem that we don't provide visa on entry to any country in the world, so it's as much a systems thing as anything else.
Both governments are in agreement that Australia and Papua New Guinea are strategically placed on the globe to take advantage of the Asian growth. For instance, Australia is expecting to see the upwards of 100 million tourists coming from China as the list of millionaires and billionaires grow. But Australia's foreign minister says both Papua New Guinea and Australia need to work out how best to capture the benefits of that growth. Scott White, National EMTV News, Lae.
Despite a downturn in global mineral and energy prices, PNG still remains an ideal investment destination. Several factors, including continued political stability in recent years, have played a big part in encouraging investors to do business in PNG.
World oil prices, particularly within the past 12 months, have been forcing resource companies to scale down operations. However, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill remains confident in PNG's ability to capitalize on the resource sector. The Prime Minister has been buoyed by recent developments, particularly within the energy sector, which he says can underpin continued growth in the country.
In the last year, I have met many heads of a range of large and small companies which are now investing actively in Papua New Guinea. One of them is the world's foremost energy company, Total, who has taken a majority equity in our next major gas project, the Elk Antelope project in the Gulf province.
Whilst revenue streams from these projects may take time to come into the nation's purse, the O'Neill-Dillon government is committed to ensuring that the business environment remains conducive for current and potential investors in PNG.
In our national budget over the next couple of years, we will be running a planned deficit. a deficit which is reducing, particularly when we are investing in infrastructure building in the country. And of course, this will temper off as we are aiming to achieve our surplus, budget surplus in 2017-2018.
The 31st Australia PNG Business Forum, currently underway in Leh, Morabit Province, is expected to feature presentations from the resource sector on Tuesday. Merabatulo, National EMTV News.
Impending legislative changes enabling the establishment of Kumul holdings are aimed at ensuring state-owned entities operate with less interference from government. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill gave this assurance when addressing the 31st Australia PNG Business Forum underway in Leh, Morabit Province.
The tabling of the Kumul structure legislation in Parliament will be important as it will ensure independence of state-owned enterprises from political interference, something which the Prime Minister admits is a problem at this time, a problem that has hindered state-owned enterprises in effectively carrying out their tasks.
As we all know, in the past, SOEs had no real structure for capacity building. They were often run by people who did not understand the business that they were in.
Once established, Kumul entities will also be required by law to provide financial statements for their operations, promoting greater accountability.
Under this new Kumul structure, Kumul entities will have to present financial statements to Parliament.
The Prime Minister's views on the upcoming Kumul legislation were generally welcomed by members of the Australian and PNG business communities, who are meeting in Leh to discuss ways in which business from both countries can work together to enhance trade. Merabatulo, National EMTV News.
The government has banned Australians travelling to the autonomous region of Bougainville. This was announced in a statement by the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Immigration, Rimbing Pato. It comes on the first day of the Australia PNG Business Forum in Leh, Morabit Province. MTV's Fabian Hakalitz has more on this report.
National Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Rimbing Pato imposed a ban following Australia's announcement of plans to open its mission in the autonomous region of Bougainville. In a media statement released this afternoon, the National Minister instructed the Chief Migration Officer to impose the ban with immediate effect. Notification will be sent to all PNG overseas mission, post and domestic carriers. Minister Pato clarified Australians residing in Bougainville on work and permanent resident visa will not be affected. But the ban only applies to all Australian passport holders intending to visit Bougainville on tourist, business and other short-term entry visas. All diplomats and foreign government officials wishing to visit Bougainville must seek clearance from the Foreign Affairs Department. Clearance notes will be issued to the carrier to uplift the named officials. The ban will also be imposed on any foreigner who applies for a visa at any PNG overseas mission and post to visit Bougainville. PNG Migration, Customs and Police officers on duty at all PNG ports of entry and provincial airports will monitor the ban and report any non-compliance to the Chief Migration Officer. In the meantime, National Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Rimbing Pato is out of the country and couldn't comment. Fabian Hakalitz, National EMTV News.
The climax of MTV's leading reality music show, Vocal Fusion Season 2, had Morris Opeti singing all the way home with 50,000 kina last night. Viewership records were broken with the live telecast of the grand final show with a running broadcast on FM 100 and Hot 97 FM. MTV Online received a record number of hits and telephone lines were swamped with calls from viewers from right across Papua New Guinea. The level of reaction surpassed that of State of Origin viewers' feedback by the end of the first live segments of the grand finale.
It was an exciting spectacle at the Cosmopolitan last night as the grand final show opened with a bang, beginning with the final four singing Soul to Soul's Joy.
Joy is a new sensation, new vibration.
Alongside sponsors of the show were friends and family members who were there to support their favorites. After 3 long months, the journey from auditions to the hectic vocal coaching and mentoring, it all boiled down to the crucial final performances. Maurice Opeti from Buka sang Two Strong Hearts by John Farnham, followed by How Do You Talk to an Angel by The Heights.
How do you talk to an angel? How do you hold it close to where you are?
The young lass from Chimbu, Tinzi Mao, sang Catherine Jenkins' Time to Say Goodbye, followed by I Will Never Let You Down by Rita Ora. The stunning Sumira Natera from Port Moresby sang Listen by Beyonce, followed by Masterpiece by Jessie J.
You haven't seen the best of me, 'cause I'm still working on my masterpiece. And
Jeremiah Proud from Alotau sang Michael Bolton's When a Man Loves a Woman, followed by Van Halen's Why Can't This Be Love.
straight from my heart, tell me why can this be love?
The blockbuster Season 2 show was also supported by impressive and highly entertaining performances from guest judge Protégé, Season 1 winner Jacob Ilave, finalist Delma Minay, and other artists as well. The judges said they had a tough job on their hands, but the results finally came out. Maurice earned the big 50,000 kina.
There you have it, our winner.
Third runner-up was Tinzi, who got 5,000 kina. Second runner-up was Jeremiah with 10,000 kina. And the first runner-up was Sumira Natera, who took away 20,000 kina. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
Trade, Commerce and Industry Minister Richard Maru has responded to ongoing issues raised by Madang resource owners who have called on the government to stop the Pacific Marine Industrial Zone. Minister Maru said today that the government will build the PMIZ. He dispelled claims of potential environmental damages, saying he personally visited industrial zones in the Philippines and there are measures to treat waste from the 10 proposed canneries. Maru's response comes after resource owners petitioned the government to stop the project last Tuesday. Our reporter Bethany Harriman has been following issues arising from the Madang PMIZ, and he brings us tonight's EMTV News special report.
The proposed Madang Pacific Marine Industrial Zone, or PMIZ, debate has stretched over a decade. The issue has continued from the Sumare term of government to the O'Neill-Dion government. Customary landowners have been raising concerns about environmental damage and equal participation when the project begins.
Madang, the waterways and the islands and its natural beauty is so important to me as personally as minister and also to our government.
Trade, Commerce and Industry Minister Richard Maru says the Pacific Marine Industrial Zone will be built on land that belongs to the government, bought off from RD Tuna Canneries.
The land was initially acquired by the Catholic Church, first owner, and converted into plantations. The land was later bought by RD, second owner. And the state spent millions to buy the land from RD. So really when you talk about land now, who is the landowner? There's no landowner, government is the landowner. People forget that. Government is the
He also dispelled debates about environmental damage and reassured resource owners that waste will be treated before it is released into the sea.
Not only that, we are telling the Chinese company designing and building the park, you have to take us to the park that uses the treatment and sewage system that you are designing. Environmental Department, Provincial Government of Madang, all the stakeholders, we have to satisfy ourselves that the design is right before we can even allow the construction.
Last month, Madang's Kananam people held a series of canoe protests to draw government attention to their plight. The customary resource owners have in the last 3 weeks held discussions at 6 impact villages to put together a petition to present to the government. When the petition was presented last week Tuesday, it nearly turned into a brawl. The petition calls for the Prime Minister Peter O'Neill and Madang Governor Jim Cuss to stop the PMIZ. It also calls on the Ombudsman Commission to investigate those involved in the project since it began.
In support of the landowners' call for the Ombudsman Commission to step in and investigate into how the project funds, especially from the Exim Bank obtained by the government, has been expended in the PMIZ project.
Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Basil has backed the customary landowners' call for the Ombudsman to investigate the PMIZ funds, money borrowed from China's Exim Bank. The Deputy Opposition Leader has also raised concerns about the legal processes agreed upon during the deal with the Chinese Exim Bank.
The financier, the Exim Bank, under the conditions that the government have signed, that anybody wants to take any legal actions against them must be done in China. And I really think once again...
Basil's support comes after that of Sumka MP Ken Fairweather, who has been going against the idea since it was tabled in 2000.
I find it fascinating that the government can borrow money from China to let the Chinese build it and then rent it back again, all provided by the state.
Trade, Commerce and Industry Minister Richard Maru says the Pacific Marine Industrial Zone project will continue, though the Prime Minister Peter O'Neill hasn't officially responded to petitions given by customary resource owners. Minister Maru is the Cabinet Minister in charge of the project and the government affairs. The customary resource owners have given till the 31st of this month for the national government and provincial government to respond to their petition. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News tonight. Still to come, Independent Task Force team takes over SABL inquiry. Stay with us. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. An estimated 5.5 magnitude earthquake that hit Rabaul yesterday morning has been attributed to volcanic activities in the East New Britain province. The Rabaul Volcano Observatory announced yesterday in their weekly volcano bulletin that the quake was caused by volcanic activities near Mount Tavurvur. Over the past 4 weeks, various parts of the New Guinea Islands, including Kokopo and Rabaul, have experienced earthquakes but were tectonic related and not volcanic. But yesterday's quake, with its aftershocks that is still continuing, had drawn more attention to a possible eruption. Rabaul Volcano Observatory, meanwhile, says the forecast for a possible minor eruption from Mount Tavurvur between June and July this year are still current. Students at the National Polytechnic Institute in Leyte today fought yet another battle with their administration. This time, they demanded the administration to sign an agreement containing a number of terms, which included the establishment of a caretaker administration. Students also claimed they weren't informed about the involvement of the Electoral Commission and the referendum to decide if they will return to class. One of the terms of reference states that those students who had participated in the boycott mustn't be terminated. Director for National Polytechnic Institute, Graham Bidang, says the administration had not been notified by students during the drafting of the agreement. He further said that he and his family have been intimidated by a group of students who threw stones at his house. 6 judges have been appointed to the National and Supreme Courts of Papua New Guinea. Chairman of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission and Justice Minister Anopala said the appointment will strengthen the judiciary's capacity to deal with increasing numbers of pending cases. 3 new permanent judges are newly appointed, while the other 3 are reappointed. The new appointments will also see the National Court expand its operations to the provinces to conduct increased court circuits and sittings. The judges are waiting for their official swearing-in, which will take place at a later date. Well, the inquiry into the special agriculture business leases has been taken over by an independent task force team. Chief Secretary to Government Sir Manasupe Zurino told EMTV News today the task force will oversee and implement recommendations of the previous commission. He says the team is tasked to settle this issue before June.
The Chief Secretary to Government said after 6 months, no progress was made in implementing the recommendations of the reports submitted. Semana Super said this has annoyed the government and pressured authorities. Manasupe said the task force team will report to him and speed up this process.
All our recommendations are very clear. All specifically say what to do. So there should be no problem implementing all.
The new task force team is made up of Dr. Lawrence Sause, Daniel Katakbam and Put Paunga. Semana Super said their work now is to deal with specific recommendations and implement accordingly on case-by-case basis.
This is what our task force. We hope we'll be able to get the job done for us.
Out of 75 SABL leases, only 45 were reported back as a result of one of the commissioners not submitting his report.
We anticipate to go back to government by the end of this month or early next month with exactly what to do with each of those 45 leases.
The SABL inquiry came about when it was uncovered that over 5.2 million hectares of customary land were converted to agricultural business leases without the knowledge of customary land owners. A lot of these leases were being used as a cover for illegal logging operations and were not genuine agriculture businesses. Jack Lapave Jr., National, EMTV News.
Chief Justice Sir Salamo Injia has appointed a leadership tribunal to investigate allegations of misconduct in office by two Parliament's ministers. Sohe MP and Minister for Religion, Youth and Community Development, Tilala Gore, failed to comply with air safety regulations by refusing to switch off her mobile phone inside an aircraft, while Works and Implementation Minister and Mbongu MP, Francis Awesa, unlawfully held public property for personal use. The tribunal consists of Justice Goodwin Poole and magistrates Mark Selef-Karu and Ernest Wilmot. The tribunal will commence its inquiry on the 25th of May 2015 at 9:30 a.m. at the National Court in Waigani. Opposition leader Don Pollier has proposed to the government to build concrete pavements for deteriorating road sections on the Highlands Highway. Upon inspecting the Tumble Nebulia to Mbongu Road last week, Pollier said roads in the city should not be given priority over vital road links like the Highlands Highway.
In a recent visit to Pangia in the Southern Highlands province, the opposition leader raised concerns on the deteriorating state of major road connections along the Highlands Highway. The leader is now proposing concrete slabs to replace the bitumen.
We need to build concrete pavement now because bitumen is becoming useless. It breaks down every 6 months when it is constructed and therefore needs to have it changed to pavement construction.
The Highlands Highway is a 700-kilometer stretch of road. It covers almost 99% of the Highlands region, including the Momase regions, Medang and Morobe province. It has been the national government's burden to keep the road up to standard, as it's a vital economic connection for the country that caters for over a quarter of the country's population. Every year, the government allocates approximately 1 billion kina to cater for all major highways and road upgrades in the country.
Now's the time, and the Prime Minister needs to do this job, to focus on the roads and not in any other areas like the Port Moresby, unnecessary roads in Port Moresby. They have no economic viability.
Meanwhile, the national government maintained its commitments for upgrading the Highlands Highway. Major road upgrades will be carried out in the next 2 years. The new Southern Highlands Highway that will connect the Southern Highlands to the Gulf province is one major upgrade of the highway. Stanley Ovett Jr., National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, the opposition leader has issued a strong warning to church organizations in the country to keep away from politics. Mr. Pollier said this during the launch of the Tokpisin version of the King James Bible in Pangia, Southern Highlands Province. The opposition leader also acknowledged the partnership the church has with the government in delivering services in the country. However, he said churches must remain independent.
I urge all the churches to stay independent. of politics, of government work, because the church and the government, they're completely different institutions. The government looks after the interests of the physical needs of human life in Papua New Guinea, whilst the church looks at the spiritual lives of the people of this nation.
And now we take a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3685 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, our kina was fetching $0.361 $0.446 Australian dollars, €0.3116 euro, and 42.68 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee and cocoa closed the day higher, while copper closed the day lower. Palm oil and crude oil closed lower as well, while copper closed the day higher. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 20 points higher, the ASX closed at 43 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 34 points higher as well. You're watching National EMTV News tonight. After the break, church's role in educating women recognised and national policy on disability gets government approval. Stay tuned for that and more. Good to have you back with the news. The National Gaming Control Board has rebranded its corporate logo as part of its restructure to be one of the best regulators in the country. At the launch of the new look recently, the regulator of the gambling industry says it will continue to give back to the community through its Community Development Fund. Every year, 100 million kina is given back to the Society for Community Development with special interest to support the 2015 Pacific Games.
The National Gaming Control Board says gambling is part of human nature and regulating it has prevented abuse to some extent. Under the corporate rebranding and the catch tag Know Your Limits, the board hopes to continue educating people on responsible gambling. NGCB Board Chairman Leslie Hoffman said the regulator has transformed since 1995 when the first poker machine was introduced. However, it was not until the Gaming Control Act was amended in 2007 that the regulator increased revenue from tax and levies imposed on industry operators. This revenue to the government has improved infrastructure development, including the more recent works on the 2015 Pacific Games venues and sporting facilities.
Given a lot of money to preparing our capital city for the 2000 Pacific Games. So you see the road works that's going out now. The Gaming Board has put in a $50 million as a package to the government to assist them build these roads.
Over the last 3 years, the National Gaming Control Board has spent over 1 million kina annually to assist various community projects, including preservation of endangered species. The regulator has evolved since 1995 under the leadership of Acting Chief Executive Officer Imelda Agon.
As everyone will agree, has resulted in job creation for many Papua New Guineans, and it's become profitable business opportunities for not only foreigners, but our local Papua New Guinean entrepreneurs. NGCB has also been giving generously back to the people of this country through profit sharing, and we have reached out nationwide.
Moving forward, the gambling regulator hopes to increase contributions to the government's purse to 700 million kina by 2019. An ambitious target, one which the board says can be achieved through support and commitment from industry partners. Bridget Komatep, National EMTV News.
The number of female students going into secondary level of education has increased since independence. Minister for Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, Malakai Tabar, says churches have played an important role in the education of female students. Minister Tabar made these remarks when visiting Caritas Technical Secondary School's 20th Technical Open Day here in Port Moresby.
The minister says churches have continued to promote women empowerment through education since independence. The number of female students attending secondary and tertiary institutions has increased steadily in the past 2 decades. Minister Tabar was a guest at the Caritas Technical Secondary School, one of the 2 female institutions run by the Catholic Church in Port Moresby. He was impressed with the output of technical skills and the performances demonstrated by the female students during the 20th Technical and Open House Day held yesterday.
Tabar says his office will bring to the government's attention to allow students in technical secondary schools to graduate with a diploma certificate in whatever technical trade subject they took when passing out from the secondary school.
So the conference of diplomas especially, they now are going to move away from the education department, not the whole institution, but those specific programs of technical skills will move away from the education department and effectively be part of us so that we can be assured of the quality of dissemination, but also the diploma is a good diploma. So that's part of this accreditation process that we've started.
School Directress Sister Florentina Cho says the country needs skilled people, therefore the school's existence helps to develop young women with technical skills and Christian values.
Without this technical education, this country cannot be developed like this now. So,
Sister Florentina says technical education has potential for employment after secondary level of education, but wants to see more opportunity created in the field of tourism and hospitality, sewing and cosmetology, among others. Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
West Yangaru High School is the new high school that will be built in the Yangaru Sasia district of the East Sepik province. Local MP and Minister for Trade, Commerce and Industry, Richard Maru, said the building of the new high school will go a long way in easing the spacing problems faced by Kubalia and Yangaru secondary schools.
Papua New Guinea is following the global trend where education is compulsory and given top priority by the government. And with the country's first ever free education policy, there has been an increase in student population. There are now over 50 students to a teacher in some schools in the country. In Yangaru Sasia in the East Sepik province, the increased number of students is having a huge impact on the district's 2 high schools. This has also affected the school's performance.
We have the top students in East Sepik province. 9, 10, 11, 12, you may go come up last game. There's something wrong with our secondary school at Yangaru. Even Kubalia for that matter.
The groundbreaking ceremony for the new West Yangaru High School was done last week by the local MP. The new school is estimated to cost around 10 million kina. Following the swearing in of the new district's development authority, an additional 61,000 kina was given to the Kindly Teachers College as subsidized tuition fees. The fees were presented to 61 students from the district who are currently studying to be primary school teachers. Stanley Ovett Jr., National EMTV News.
Building Acts and building regulations will be reviewed to make access for people living with disability a standard requirement. This comes as the National Executive Council endorsed the National Policy on Disability. The announcement was made recently by Community Development Minister Delilah Gore.
It has taken the government some years to seriously make way for people living with disabilities in PNG. The 2015 to 2025 National Disability Policy was a decision on the 7th of May to remove barriers and make their rights real. Community Development Minister Delilah Gore says the review will proceed with directives to provincial building boards to implement requirements for disability-inclusive provisions.
The type of buildings that is built in public places that can give access to people living with disabled.
This will also see establishment of orthotic and prosthetic centers and physiotherapy services in all hospitals. Not only health services will be provided for people living with disability, but a breakthrough is for them to access special formal education.
Policy directed Department of Education to review the special education program for different classes of disability.
Minister Gore said PLWDs are part of the community and the government is keen to push this policy with relevant articles of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
So this is welcome news for people with disabilities throughout the country, not only people with disability, but families, friends, supporters, and people who've been there actually working and supporting people with disabilities. So we are very much happy that government is taking a positive step.
The policy will be tabled in the next Parliament sitting. Jack Lapawe, Junior National, EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, US President Barack Obama has gained support from the US Senate in finalizing the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement. This effectively gets the ball rolling for TPP, a bid that began 10 years ago. TPP is a proposed free trade agreement among 12 countries bordering the Pacific Rim. It aims to unlock trade and economic integration across the Asia-Pacific region with America.
Trade Promotion Authority is the key to our economic future.
TPP supporters argue that the 12-nation trade agreement, which includes Australia, and a US-Europe trade accord currently under discussion, would together create 1.4 million American jobs and level the playing field for US exports abroad. Last week, Obama gently rebuked Democrats who opposed the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Strong minimum wage, strong job training programs, infrastructure investments that put people back to work. Those are the things that are going to help us address the very problems that they're concerned about. Blocking a trade deal will not, particularly since they're the first ones to acknowledge that the existing trade rules are a bad deal for U.S. workers. If they're not working for us now, how does hanging on to what's going on now help American workers? Doesn't make sense.
Following days of obstruction from legislators in President Obama's own Democratic Party, the U.S. Senate has advanced legislation allowing him to swiftly finalize a landmark Pacific Trade Pact. Congress is expected to make its decision on the Trade Promotion Authority bill this week, which is key to the Obama administration's ability to complete the 12-nation Trans-Pacific Partnership. Today, Australia's Trade Minister Andrew Robb, who is currently in Papua New Guinea to promote further commercial engagement, told ABC that he anticipates the passing of the bill this week as well.
Well, overnight, the Republicans have become increasingly bullish about it passing the Senate quickly, where the real difficulties are with the Democrats, and then through to the House before the end of the week. And in the House, of course, the Republicans have got the numbers, and it would pass.
Support to expedite the Trans-Pacific Partnership also came from the East, as Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said the bill is necessary to create a free trade zone covering 40% of the world economy.
Each negotiation member nation considers the Trade Promotion Authority bill indispensable towards an early agreement on TPP talks. Japan strongly hopes for an early enactment of the bill in the US, and we will be monitoring the progress of this bill carefully.
The TPP bid began in 2005 as the Trans-Pacific Strategic Partnership Agreement. It includes 12 Asia-Pacific nations, which include Japan, New Zealand, Australia and Singapore. You're watching National EMTV News tonight. Coming up next, we have True Guy Sports with a look at gender equality in sports, and Karita Secondary ready to host some of the Pacific Games meets. Stay with us.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to True Guy Sports. The All Search Baton Relay has continued its journey through Western Islands Province after arriving in Mount Hagen. Travelling via rail, the baton made a series of stops in and around the city, including Mount Rondon, the Mount Hagen Market and Mapir. MTV's Jeremy Moggy has the highlights.
The Oil Search Baton Relay started Saturday morning, traveling by road up to Mount Rondon, with spectacular views of the valley and surrounding mountains. The relay team stopped for a scenic photo shoot before heading back into town. The next stop was Mount Hagen Market, known for its wide selection of fresh produce brought from surrounding districts. A colorful bonanza as the baton was passed between a number of stall holders, all happy to pose with the baton. Quick stop at a roadside market in town for locals to hold the baton. All seem to know about it and keen to get snapped holding it. Moving out of town, the team headed out onto the road through rich green countryside with small farms known to supply fresh produce for the area. After stopping at Mapia, a family standing on the side of the road soon grew to a good-sized crowd as people nearby realized the baton had made an unscheduled stop. They were happy to hold and touch the baton, and it was decided to relay it down the road to the next little community, careful of any traffic as they reached an excited crowd with plenty of children. Hats were given out, wristbands as well. The baton also taking a run to the Mayflower, a grass that blooms only in May. All these stops providing the small communities the chance to be part of the biggest event in the country. With the success of the last stop, the relay team pulled up at another roadside market. The attraction, the game of chance on the dartboard. The baton standing firm as darts flew past hitting the board. From there, the baton made its way back into Mount Hagen town. The All Such Baton Relay continues.
The two-day workshop on women in media and in sport in Doha, Qatar, held discussions on sporting issues concerning national Olympic committees in the Oceania region. Of the 120 attendees, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Samoa and Vanuatu were among the 6 Pacific Island nations present. From this workshop, participants raised their concerns with Mata Akaula, the regional media development specialist from the Oceania Olympic Committee, and an action plan was agreed on, which will be implemented and distributed worldwide by the IOC.
The workshop in Doha not only addresses the importance of gender equality within sporting federations and the need for standout advocacies, but also key areas of improvement within respective NOCs to drive change and development. Representatives from the Oceania countries spoke on the lessons learned and the need for immediate implementation.
But now it's time to walk the talk, to implement things, put things into practice. So we've put together a plan of action that Oceania, or the media in Oceania, including all of us, can work on to improve the way women in sports are covered, or even the portrayal of women in general.
An action plan was put together by all attendees, with one of the main elements focusing on the improvement, with the need for regional training for reporting on women in sport and the setup of a media monitoring mechanism identified.
I think we've had too long, and that's not just our region, but other regions that we've been having experiences, that a lot of the coverage on sports is really more towards the male athletes, right? And one of the things maybe that we can encourage our sports writers that are going to cover the Pacific Games is also focus on the sports that a lot of our women are taking part in.
With growing multi-sport events and competitions in full swing within the region, the need for improvement on sports journalism is high. What Papua New Guinea has taken from this workshop is the need for more awareness and education to drive change. The action plan agreed on by all attendees from all continents will be assessed and distributed worldwide by the International Olympic Committee for implementation. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports, Doha.
Trukai Sports continues after these short messages. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The indoor sporting complex at Caritas Technical Secondary School here in Port Moresby is nearing completion and just about ready to host the 2015 Pacific Games. A total of 4 sporting codes will be held inside the new complex. And that's a wrap-up of Trukai Sports tonight. Coming up next, the weather details. Stay tuned for that.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
A quick look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours for southern region, Port Moresby, Alatau and Popondetta, including Kerema and Daru, mostly fine. Well, that wraps up National EMTV News this Monday, the 18th of May, 2015. On behalf of the news team, I'm Tokana Hasavi. You have a pleasant working week. Take care. Good night.